If you want to know what's going on in Northeast Florida, Jacksonville, and St. Augustine yesterday, today, and tomorrow, tune in to Scott Grant at 103.9. He's got all the latest and the best history we've got.
Hi, this is Scott Grant, and I'm here in our studios in beautiful downtown Ponte Vedra Beach with Jennifer Price.
Hello.
And our special guest today, Donna Deegan. How are you? It's wonderful to have you here.
Oh, it's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're excited. You're probably, I think, the most famous guest we've had at this point.
I think he's a little starstruck.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I am a little starstruck. I am. We said this already. I'm a little starstruck. Before we came on air, we were getting you ready, and we had a problem with the seats. Getting you up to the right height, right? Our microphones are probably not as sophisticated as you're used to. So you were telling a story that you had to sit. We got some pillows for you, and you were telling us a story that you had to sit on something at the studio when you were on the news. Now tell us about that.
Well, they don't ever want anybody to look like they're a very short stair step when you're looking at the anchors. They want everybody to sort of look like they're the same height, right? So it's not distracting.
I didn't know that, but that's interesting.
I'm basically 5 foot nothing. I back in my heyday, I was probably 5'1.25". Okay, this was before I started running eons ago. So I don't even let them take my height anymore when I go to the doctor unless I have glasses on my head or something. I refuse. But what happened was they said we want you to be the same height. So they gave me a phone book to sit on, and they wrapped the phone book in duct tape, and they put Donna's butt booster on the so it would always be my phone book that I would always.
So
have
nobody
to
would
sit
steal
on.
your cushion.
Nobody else would be sitting on your phone book when you weren't around.
Forget getting the anchor of 20 something years, a seat that might go higher.
That's funny.
Just give her the phone book that but it worked. It worked fine, and I think people are always shocked if they've never seen me when they see me in person that I'm this tiny little diminutive person.
I wonder what they
point.
do now without phone books.
Well, I expect they have fancy chairs is what they probably do, or these lovely cushions that I'm sitting on right now work very nicely. Much more comfy than a phone book. I must
That
say.
cushion you're sitting on actually belonged to my mother. I want to share that with you.
Sorry, Mom.
That's so sentimental.
I think Nancy would be pleased. I think Nancy would be pleased that we were using it and doing this.
The
And I think she would
Scottish
really like
tartan.
you. She was a woman. She was a fan of women, and she liked women in positions of importance. And I think she'd be pleased that you're using her.
Well,
cushion.
I hope so.
Donna's
it's for a good
butt
purpose.
booster.
Donna's butt booster.
Woo!
Nancy's homegrown Donna's butt booster. I don't know.
I love it.
There we go.
That's funny.
Shout out to your mom.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Both my parents have passed away, so if they're listening on some kind of a device other than
A different
radio.
frequency. There you go.
A different frequency. I like that. So, how many years were you on the news?
Well, in total, I was on the news for 28 years. In Jacksonville, 24 years.
Oh, that's a long tenure. And I remember when I first moved down here in 2005, my family in particular, I would come home late from work usually, but my family in particular was always watching you and Tim. In fact, my daughter, who wanted to be here last week, had a big crush on Tim.
Everyone in the world, every woman I ever see says, when I was a kid, I had the biggest crush on Tim.
I was 12 years old waiting in a parade for him to go by. Oh, Tim Deegan.
Yeah.
He was so hot in the 80s.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow. So that's something you and my daughter have in common then.
Yes, I grew up here.
Grew up with a crush on Tim Deegan.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting. Oh, okay. Did it ever bother you?
Oh, no. Goodness.
Good.
Look at him. It's hard to imagine you wouldn't have a crush on him, right?
Right, and he's a big surfer guy. He
hasn't changed a bit.
No, he really hasn't. He still touches the water every single day. He's out, regardless of whether it's 80 degrees or 50 degrees, he's in that water in the ocean every single day.
And when you were on the news during this time, you were...
Yes. What were your responsibilities on the news? What did they call you?
Oh, I was the anchor for the 5:30 and 11 p.m. broadcast. So one of the evening news anchors.
Oh, the serious news.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I started off my career doing the morning news, and when I was in Tallahassee and then down in West Palm. And I joked to the news director that this was really not going to work for me because, I could just watch the bags under my eyes go down with every time I would get back on the air. The morning thing just wasn't my thing. So I was really thrilled to be able to transition to the evening news.
Oh, this is a morning
what
show.
time do you have to get up in the morning to do the morning news?
Oh gosh, you're up at 1 or 2 to be there at 3 to get ready for cut-ins that start at 4 or 5, and then the shows go all the way through 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning before the networks pick up, and then you have cut-ins.
Yeah, no, I know some people are on the news now and who do those morning shows.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it.
The first person to ever interview me on air here was Letitia, and so it's Letitia Barriola. I know that's a different network, but she always talks about getting up pretty doggone early to do that.
I get
You have
physically
to.
ill.
I'm always really impressed by people that can do that. Patty Crosby was the queen of that. When she'd get up and she always just looked so perky and excited and happy to be up. And I was like, good on you, Patty. I'm just can't even imagine.
Well, it's funny. I'm going to try and get over being starstruck at the mere sight of Donna Deegan
You're
in my
just
studio.
making me laugh right now.
I'm having fun watching this.
And then we're going to go to a break.
Hi, this is Grace De La Rosa, and welcome to the Scott Grant Show on 103.9 FM WSOS.
Hi, this is Scott Grant, and we're here in our Standfast Asset Management studio. And I'm here today with Jennifer Price.
Hello.
My co-host, and our special guest, Donna Deegan.
Good
of
morning.
The news.
Hello. I shouldn't say good morning, right? It should
7 a.m.
The interesting thing is that it'll be on the air really early in the morning. But I think a lot of people will hear it on the podcast, which means it could be any time of the day.
So just hello out there.
So now you go and you leave the news because of breast cancer, and you had breast cancer on 3 separate occasions,
Yes, right.
and so this was really important to you. And you go off and you start a foundation, and then there's a marathon, and that's what everybody knows you for, or we shouldn't say one of the things everybody knows you for.
What happened was, just to sort of give you the timeline of events, is I was first diagnosed in 1999 and then again in 2002. And at my second diagnosis, I said to my news director, I said, gosh, everybody's already watched me lose my hair once and get sick and look peaked and talk about this stuff. And I said, I really don't want to talk about all this I don't want the news to become about the cancer. And so I said, why don't I start a blog, which then we called an online journal. Now we call it a blog, right? And I started a blog telling people about my treatment. And back from that, what I got were hundreds of emails from families, from women who are going through treatment, and they were saying, we love you, we're praying for you, we're watching you, but you should know that you're very fortunate because you have a good job and you have good insurance, and at least you can pay for your care. And I'm having to choose between putting food on the table for my kids and actually, getting my medicines. So people were making life-altering choices because they didn't have proper care. And so that's why we started the Donna Foundation. And that was in 2004 or 2003, we started the Donna Foundation. And so because I was a runner, they always say, marry your passions, right? Because I was a runner, I said, hey, why don't I start there's no breast cancer marathon out there. There's no marathon dedicated to breast cancer in the country at all. And I had met Jeff Galloway, who's a big-time running coach all over the world, who said, I'd love to help you do that. And this is a really condensed form of this story.
Yeah, no, I understand. We have a short show, short
right
segments.
But basically, that's how the marathon came to be. That and my doctor, Edith Perez at the Mayo Clinic, who was also my running partner, and we all sort of formed this triumvirate and said, let's start our own marathon to raise money both for underserved families going through breast cancer treatment so we can help them with their critical needs so they can focus on getting better instead of on the bills. And we'll also raise money for breast cancer research at Mayo Clinic. And we started this little tiny program at Mayo called, get ready for this, the Translational Genomics Program. And basically all that is you're trying to unravel the genes that cause breast cancer. So we've raised money for both of those purposes. And to date, over $5 million for that purpose.
And I did see that part of the money goes to Mayo, and part of the money goes to women who are struggling meeting bills. Is that right?
To the Donna Foundation. Yeah, that's what we do. And so what we do is we connect people with a caseworker who basically holds their hand throughout their treatment and helps them not only with financial assistance if they qualify for that,
what women
but helps them
need.
navigate their insurance, or perhaps try to get them insurance, or perhaps try to find them another pot of money where a drug company may be offering, reduced billing or whatever it is. There are so many different ways to try to help women. But the big thing is to take away that time of confusion. When you're so fearful, let's take the financial worry out of it. Let's take the confusion
Well, the financial worry is a big thing.
Oh my gosh.
I wrote an article Sunday night that'll be in the Recorder when it comes out on Thursday. And, I talk about financial crises, savings crises, and the largest cause of bankruptcy in this country
absolutely
is illness or injury. Mm-hmm. And, somebody gets sick, they lose a job, they lose health insurance, all of a sudden you lose everything.
Listen, over 70% of people who are diagnosed with cancer consider not taking part of their medicine or going to the doctor for part of their protocol for financial reasons.
What percent was that again? Say that
over
again.
Over 70%. But listen to this, 42% actually act on that. So think about that. Over 40% of people are not getting all the care they need because they're making, okay, so this week I really can't afford to get that medicine and put food on the table. That's still happening.
And mothers are going to do that
basis.
more than fathers.
Oh my gosh, women are
I'm trying to
never going to
decide
make that choice.
how would I do it as a
You
single
can't.
mom
well,
of
you
three?
You wouldn't. It's not a choice, is the bottom line. It's not a choice. Of course you're going to take care of your children. I was talking to a woman a couple of months ago at a morning mixer that we had for the foundation. She has stage 4 breast cancer, which means
my
that she's in a
goodness.
dire
Yes.
circumstance. She found a lump years ago. But she didn't go to the doctor because her family had no money, and she said, I wasn't going to put my family in financial peril by going down that road. So I just prayed about it and hoped it would all be okay. And God love her, here she is now, and it's going to cost so much more for her treatment now and everything that she'll have to go through. She went to the emergency room, which of course is incredibly expensive too. But the bottom line is we are losing people every day because of lack of healthcare coverage, and it's really been one of those stark things for me that's come out of the,
I know this is a passion
the Donna
for you,
Foundation, yeah.
and I know it's a passion for you generally, and I know it's a
Huge.
passion for you in the campaign.
Yeah.
And the medical system here in the United States, there's problems. There's clearly problems. Different people have different solutions.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is I want to go, again, give Mike a chance to play some music. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about healthcare.
Great.
Hi, this is Mike Kaufman, and you're listening to my hero, Scott Grant, on the Scott Grant Radio Show on 103.9 FM, WSOS, StAugustine.radio.com.
Hi, this is Scott Grant. We're broadcasting from the Standfast Asset Management Studios in Ponte Vedra, and I'm here with my co-host, Jennifer Price.
I'm here.
How are you this morning, Jennifer?
I am trying to avoid sports.
Well, and that's one of your normal situations. Now, we're here with Donna Deegan.
Does that include running?
Oh God, what am I running from?
You're running for, not
Oh, okay, that's a new way to look at
yeah,
it.
Well,
running for a
Donna's-
good cause.
So if I were to run for something, it might make me want to run.
I think it might.
So how do you feel about having Donna in the studio today?
Oh, I'm really excited. I told my kids this morning that this is our first real celebrity on the radio show.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit my head through the door on the way out of here. It's pretty, guys
Well,
are funny.
Well, I
That's
grew
it.
up watching you
Thank
and
you.
your husband.
Thank
so.
you.
Yeah, and I grew up-
I usually get that. Some grown woman will come up to me. Oh, you came to my 3rd grade class. Oh, thanks. Okay.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, we don't ever like hearing that. And I should say, we are here in the studio with Donna Deegan. So thank you for being here.
Great to be here
It's
with you.
great. Before the break, we were talking about healthcare, and I think this is one of the issues that most divides us. Or, I don't know,
Is it?
most.
I don't know. I mean,
it's a big divisive issue, I think.
I guess, but if you look at the polling on healthcare, the huge majority of people believe that everybody should be covered. They just don't agree on how. So,
Right.
so if you ask people about universal healthcare, they'll tell you they support that. If you ask them about something like Medicare for all, that's sort of a catchphrase that concerns people. But I think if you just look at the polling, over 70% of people believe everyone should have affordable healthcare.
That's well, that makes sense. I mean, we all want children and our family and people in general to get the health care that they need. I'm surprised by 70%.
Look, for me, it's personal, though. I mean,
I know,
that's
for sure.
really one of the drivers of why I got into the race, because in addition to the fact that I've been through breast cancer 3 times, I mean, I personally had so many bills beyond the bills that were paid by insurance that it took me quite a while. Now, obviously, I could have sold my home or something, but it took me quite a while to get through all
Was it
that.
majorly expensive for you?
Of course. I mean,
Well, can I ask
everybody.
you? What are we talking about in dollars?
I mean, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars.
It's expensive.
And so, but think of that for someone who doesn't have a job or who doesn't have the
Well,
ability
for
to
sure.
pay. I mean, it's and the huge majority of people right now have deductibles that are over $2,000. And
Right.
so, if I don't have anything, $2,000 might as well be $2 million, right? So if you can't get in the door,
Right.
that's a problem.
And the deductibles are huge for that. You're right. And there's a lot of people. There are a lot of people who are living out there that $2,000 would be, a serious an impossibility.
Listen, so it's my absolute belief that it is one of the things that if we're going to do anything as a country with our tax dollars, it should be for the health and welfare of our people. And so I am absolutely in favor of some form of universal health care. But I think we got to bring all sides together and figure out the best way forward on that.
But there's a lot
to
of
do it.
people that argue that if we do that our health care will decline. That's where I was saying I think the divisiveness that we will have health care, and they often point to places like Sweden. It will be like Sweden or Canada.
Yeah,
where
I just
people
don't
can't
think the
get
numbers
things.
bear that out is the thing. I mean, if you interview people who are part of many of those programs and in almost every developed democracy in the world, they'll tell you they love their health care. And if you look at the highest rated health care in our nation, guess what it is? Medicare and TRICARE. Those are the two highest rated.
I believe that.
Healthcare
I believe
won't. What did you say? It won't deteriorate. It will evolve.
Well, it will, and I think, but
I think
change
what
is
it was-
always scary for people. I think
Changes.
that's,
People don't like change.
They don't like change.
And then I think
True.
these are somewhat political issues now.
Yeah.
So we see universal health care or Medicare for all or any kind of program that's going to give health care to poor children who might otherwise die.
Right.
As a Democrat issue. And then we see the
Yeah,
other side, the Republican issue being, oh no, it'll destroy our healthcare system.
But see, if you look at the polling on that again, I mean, remember what
When
happened
you're teaching me something, I have not seen this poll.
Remember what happened when the Republicans almost repealed the
Right.
Affordable Care Act?
Right.
That wasn't just Democrats who came out of the woodwork to say, hey, hold on a second.
Or the Republicans and McCain,
Right.
McCain very specifically, and there's still a lot of Republicans here in the area who have not forgiven John McCain for that vote.
I just think that this is where, and I know we're going to talk about this later, but this is where if we could just take away the whole notion of who gets the credit for what, right? You know who first came up with the Affordable Care Act, the notion of it? The Heritage Foundation.
Yeah, I saw that you'd said that, and I wasn't aware. I know that this was something that had been tested in Massachusetts.
But it was initially a construct of the Heritage Foundation. And what happens is people get so entrenched in, oh, if that's his idea, I can't be for it. Oh, if that's his idea because I can't be for it. And if we could just take the blinders off with that
Take
and
the
try
emotion
to
out of
work
it.
together and figure out what is the best way for. I mean, is that Pollyanna of me? I don't think so. I think most people are frustrated by the fact that we simply can't seem to move on something because I don't like your party and you don't like mine. We got to get beyond that. And frankly, you're a historian. The history of Jacksonville is not that.
Oh no, absolutely true. It's not, and but there are cycles of it. I mean, I think one of the things that I talk about a lot is I feel like we are going through a period of time now that's very similar to the 1960s, and then in turn very similar to the 1920s. Where women, minorities, young people are pushing up, looking for more power. A bigger voice in society, new technology, the radio in the car, the television in the 60s, and now the internet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities. And it's funny, I was watching All in the Family the other night. And I was watching All in the Family with my daughter and her boyfriend. And it just struck me. I was like, I'm Archie. All of a sudden, I want to call this kid Meathead, and I'm stopping myself partially because I don't want to be called Archie.
Yeah.
But it was very similar. It was really similar. Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow, you're up early. This is Scott Shilbrock, and you are listening to my good friend Scott Grant on 103.9 FM WSOS.
Hi, this is Scott Grant. You're listening to the Scott Grant Show. broadcast from beautiful downtown Ponte Vedra Beach. And I'm here with Jennifer Price, my co-host. Say hello.
Downtown.
Oh, nice.
And
You're
go
singing
ahead.
this morning.
Yeah, she's happy, I think, to be on the air. We kind of like doing this.
I can tell.
And our guest today is Donna, the fabulous Donna Deegan.
Ooh, the fabulous Donna Deegan. I like that. Could I add that to my name now and everything?
Sure. Yeah, for absolutely.
You know,
Fabulous.
you've been a lot of firsts for us here.
Yeah?
You were our first charity event.
Yes.
When we did the women's empowerment event at the Cultural Center last year.
Yep, that went to the Donna Foundation.
that was we raised money for the Donna Foundation, and that was great.
4,000.
One of the things that I remember from that event is you had come out for Andrew Gillum right beforehand,
Ooh, yeah.
and
That's right.
people were mad.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
And we had guests text us angrily.
Yeah,
and I
that's
think
some
I think you and I
difficult
looked at a few of them. And you were getting you and I were
Yeah.
both getting texts at
Yeah.
the same time
Yeah.
from angry people because
Yeah.
you had endorsed Gillum.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe, like, what do you mean you don't want to donate money to a worthy cause because...
Oh, listen, it's
What?
well, I could tell you stories, but you know, one of the things that I've said at the outset of this campaign is that I really wish that people could look at things as a contest of ideas. Why would anybody take something out on a charitable organization because they happen to disagree, you know, on how to get to certain places that we all basically mostly agree we need to get to, only from a different avenue? And I think that that's where some of this, but we saw it, right? We saw it. And I think, you know, what attracted me so much to Andrew Gillum were a couple of things. One was I found him to be incredibly authentic. Really thought, this is a person who is a public servant who really cares. But beyond that, I really felt he could move the dial on Medicaid expansion in the state. And right now, we still have almost 1 million people, our most medically needy people, because this legislature refuses to expand Medicaid. Only one of 13 in the whole country that won't expand Medicaid. And a recent study came out that said we've lost 2,800 people by estimate because we haven't expanded Medicaid. That's just unconscionable to me. And look, this is money that's going to other states. It's not like the money's not being spent. Our money's going to California.
Well, that's something that
California.
something that actually intrigues me. Is I think we get back less money from the federal government here in Jacksonville than we're probably entitled to. And you know, whether that money goes, and Florida generally.
But frankly, that's because of a political food
Right.
fight. Rick Scott did not like did not like Barack Obama, and therefore we did not get the money that we should have gotten. And those are the types of political food fights that drive me crazy.
Is that something you would change?
Oh, my goodness.
If in Congress,
Well,
when you're elected, what are we saying? Would you try and change the amount of money coming to Florida?
Well, of course I would. I mean, that's part of my job, right? Is to bring more money to the district.
You've got my attention now. More money.
But truly, there are so many ways in which not expanding Medicaid, you know, dovetails into additional problems, into additional economic problems for people, into people who lose their lives or who become sick or who then are a greater burden on the economy. So there are so many reasons to expand Medicaid in this state. But beyond that, just let's leave that aside because we're talking about divisiveness. I just wish we could start seeing the humanity in each other again, as opposed to just looking at each other as a D or an R. I spent most of my life as an NPA very comfortably. And the only reason that you see a D next to my name is because that's how you got to run for office, right?
Right.
I mean, frankly, that's the way you do it. But I am absolutely a believer that if we don't all have a stake in a solution, it's not going to be a long-term solution.
You're a bundle of energy, by the way. It gets you going. You are a bundle of energy.
Well, I feel desperate right now that we need to do something to turn this page.
And I can understand that. I have that feeling myself, not so much about political issues as the divisiveness. You know, I sit there and I say, look, you know, there's a third of the country is on one side and a third of the country is on the other, and I'm sitting here in the middle. And frankly, I can irritate both sides pretty quickly by saying, well, you know, let's look at the middle, which is where we all, I think, should be. Mm-hmm. Now, I saw an interview with your opponent, John Rutherford, and he suggested that the possible fix for the divisiveness was more pork. And if we had more pork barrel, you know, the pork barrel,
mm-hmm.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I've got a big question mark on my face.
More money coming into the district.
Okay.
So he as a Republican agrees with the Democrat over in Tampa that they're both going to vote
Sure,
for
money will fix everything.
for a bill or an amendment to a bill, and we'll get something here. Let's just say an aquarium, and they'll get something over in Tampa, maybe a new hospital.
Well, here's a cool idea. I think really the answer to fixing the divisiveness is to actually have respect for one another. That would be the best to stop vilifying people on the other side of the political aisle simply because they have a different political party from you. To me, that is the way to fix the divisiveness. I mean, look, Ronald Reagan said it when he was president that if we don't have some, I know compromise is a dirty word to people, but if we don't have that, if we don't have a win for somebody on the other side of some,
right, exactly, and I think
it's not going to last.
I think in his own way, I think that's kind of what Rutherford was saying. Only he was translating it into pulling money back. Ronald Reagan's this great guy. He comes along, 1980 political election. Suddenly the country is unified again. And I bring it up because, again, I feel like we're repeating the 60s here, 70s. We're yelling at each other. There was no ability to agree on anything during that period of time. You remember as a child, everybody was fighting, calling each other's names. And we got to a point where we thought that was going to be the norm. And then suddenly Ronald Reagan comes along, and at least to some extent, we all agree. He carries almost every state. You no longer have this idea that certain states are Democrat, certain states are Republican. And I think we'll have that again. We've gone way over time. Let's do a break. We'll come back.
Hi, I'm Billy Bussard, and I interviewed the Beatles, which is a much bigger deal than being on the Scott Grant Show.
Hi, this is Scott Grant. I'm here in our studios with Jennifer Price, my co-host.
I'm here.
And Donna Deegan.
Good
and
morning.
It's great to have you. Have we already said that you're the most famous guest that we've had on the show?
Say it again. I like that.
You're the most famous guest we've had on the show. And have I told you I'm a little starstruck just in your presence?
Well, I'm starstruck in your presence. How about
thank
that?
you. Thank you very much. Wow.
Aww.
Did we get that on tape,
yes,
Jennifer?
Yes, we did.
So let me ask the question, I think probably the basic question. Why are you running?
That's a great question. I said to a group the other night, it's better than throwing things to the television set, which is really what I had come to doing every single day. But truly, here's
so
the
that
reason.
was your Archie Bunker moment, then, right? Getting ready to throw stuff at the television.
I will tell you what it came down to for me. I see what's happening. I have survived cancer 3 times, and by the grace of God, somehow I am still here. I don't know why, aside from the fact that I'm not done. And when I see what's happening right now, I say to myself, if I'm not using every bit of talent that is in my body to try to make the world better for my kids, I see my kids are in their 20s now. They're just coming out of college. Right. And they're going into a world that, frankly, frightens me. And I always tell people, I don't believe in fear. I'm a love over fear girl, right? I don't know what this world is going to look like if we have another 4 years, 2 years, 4 years of what's going on right now. And so I said to myself, this is my moment. If I'm ever going to do this, and let me tell you, I have heard from a lot of Republicans who are sick and tired of the chaos. They're tired of the ugliness. They're tired of the divisiveness, and they want to see more women lead. And I have had so many, especially Republican women, reach out to me and say, we need to turn the page on all this. And so for me, all of that, I've heard this for almost a year now. And I finally went, you know what? This is the time. If we are ever going to turn the page on this, even as gerrymandered as this district is, if we're ever going to turn the page on that, this is the year we can do it, because I believe, and they may be a lot like those Trump voters from 2016 where they don't talk out loud all the time because they don't want to create a lot of commotion. But I believe there are a lot of Republicans who believe, as Ronald Reagan said years ago, that he felt the Democratic Party left them. I believe there are many Republicans who believe the Republican Party has left them. And I think those are the people that we're speaking to.
I'll be honest. I mean, I have issues with both parties. I mean, at this point, it's hard to get behind either agenda too strongly. You hear some of the socialist rhetoric coming from the far left of the Democratic Party, and it's like, yeah, I can't go that far.
It's so interesting. I love that. I love it. I can't agree. I mean, I know some of it is. I know some of it. I'm not going to say some of the candidates, or at least one in particular, doesn't go pretty far in that direction. But the word socialist is thrown around to me in such a crazy way because most people think Venezuela, which is, come on. I mean, there's nobody.
The Venezuelan problem is a dictatorship problem. It's not a socialism problem.
I mean, but
nobody wants to say that,
think
but that's the
people
truth.
know their
but
vocabulary.
social programs are not the same thing as socialism, and
Well, I
we
will
can't.
say-
And we cannot allow. I've been so disappointed at people, even in the party, who are using that term.
Well, and I will say this, people come. And
I'm a
periodic-
capitalist, by the way.
Yeah, I'm
just
a capitalist
so you know.
too. I'm a big time capitalist. I invest in stocks.
wow,
I
a
invest
room full of
money-
capitalists.
People's
I
money
like
in
that.
stocks for a living.
Can we start a capitalist party?
But one of the things you will hear is people say, I don't like socialism, and part of my response is often, if it's somebody I think I can talk to, first off, is, well, are you saying you don't want more socialism? Because we already have some. I mean, we have Medicare, we have Social Security. There's a fair amount of socialism in
those
this
are
country.
social programs that are very essential to this country. Do you want roads? Do you want do you want your Medicare? Do you want that stuff? Do you want that stuff to be taken away? No, nobody wants that. But what's happened is people have taken that little moniker, and to hear. To hear somebody call Joe Biden a socialist the other day, I mean, it doesn't matter
didn't see
what
that.
it doesn't matter what you say anymore. If you're on the Democratic side, that's the term that's going to be attached to you. People, I'm begging you, please think more deeply about this than to take that term and just, we are in a say anything, do anything, and justifies the means mentality when it comes to our politics right now. And I am begging people to bring it back to some sane discourse.
Well, we were talking earlier, and you said, a third of the country's super Republican, a third of the country is a super Democrat, and there's sort of the rest of us that are in the middle. It always fascinates me because politicians are not, historically the most ethical people in the world. Not that you're at all unethical, but that's sort of the notion. So then how can you sit here and tell me that one party, is ethical and right, and the other party is totally morally bankrupt, and actually should
I
be
would
thrown.
not-
and
I would
actually
not
should,
say that to you.
I know. I'm not saying you would. I'm just saying how other people can say these kinds of things to me, and actually should be thrown in prison.
But what I will say to you, and what really concerns me, both as a journalist and as somebody who is now running for office, is that we seem to have divorced ourselves from the facts. People have decided, I've got my facts and you've got your facts, and the truth doesn't really matter. My truth
I
is
agree
my
with
truth
that.
and your truth is your truth, and that is very dangerous. We're in 1984 territory right there. I mean, that is scary stuff.
I really respect that you're a traditional journalist, not the new ones that will say anything.
Well, but look, I'm going to tell you that 95% of journalists out there, especially those that are working at your local newspaper and your local TV, are doing their dead level best every day to try to go out there and bring you the news in an unbiased way. And people who think they're not, listen, newsrooms are a microcosm of the country. You've got Democrats, you've got Republicans, you've got independents, and you're trying simply to be fair. And I don't care if people don't believe that, it's true. You need to believe that.
Well, everybody has a media they believe in, and
Yeah.
everybody has a media they think is
That's the
lying.
That's the
lying.
scary part.
It's scary. It is
That's
scary.
the scary part.
And
Us
and
and them.
I hear you saying, we don't want to continue down this path too long. I'm still convinced that time will rectify this, and that
Do we have that time?
Wow. Great question. You should put that on one of your campaign ads.
No, I mean,
I'm serious.
it's a
You should-
serious question. One of the
we
reasons that
have
I'm running
time?
now is because I don't personally believe that our democracy has that time. I'm Donna Deegan. It feels like I've been running my whole life, and now I'm running for Congress. This is the Scott Grant Show, and you're listening on 103.9.
Hi, this is Scott Grant. I'm here with my co-host, Jennifer Price. Say hi, Jennifer.
Hello.
And our guest today, Donna Deegan, who is running for Congress. Thank you for being here.
I am? Oh, yeah, I am.
You are? Did you not know?
We're announcing it here. No. Yes, it's exciting.
Has
I'm
nobody told you
excited.
yet? Because if not, you are a candidate for the Florida 4th District.
Yes.
She's just about turned me.
I am, and I'm excited to be doing so.
And I would have never known any more about why you're running for your campaign unless I met you in person.
Well, that's
It
the
really
idea.
changes.
I want to
I
get
think
the
meeting.
word out.
I think meeting voters in person matters. I would encourage you to get out and meet as many people as you can.
You know,
got
honestly,
a tough road.
it's all I want to do. I wish I was out there every day. It was one of the things I enjoyed being part of the political process in 18. I canvassed every day, and I would love to do that. I would love to do that. Now, unfortunately, I'm sitting next to a telephone dialing for dollars most days because that's the reality of a political campaign. But the truth is, that's what I would love to do, and I look forward to when I get
And
to do more of that.
speaking about money, we didn't talk about that. How much have you raised?
We've raised, we just closed up our first quarter. We only had 6 weeks of a quarter, and we raised $204,000, which is 3 times more than any candidate that's a Democrat has raised in CD4.
So where does that money go? What do you do with it?
I paid my campaign manager over there. No, I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. No, I do. But no, the truth is there's a lot that goes into it. You know, you have to hire campaign staff that helps with your emails and your finances and all those things, all the rules that you have to follow, and the roadmap. And then eventually, it's I think it's about $1 million a week to be on television. So it's a lot.
So that's why you're on the radio.
That's it's truly it's why you have to raise so much money.
How much do you think you have to raise? $1.5 million, $2 million?
Probably easy. Yeah.
If you get there, then more money will come. That's the interesting thing. The money will come pouring in from outside of Florida.
Now, I will tell you something that I would be very interested in if I do get to Congress. When I do get to Congress, is I would love to debate, public elections. I'd love to talk about that. I know that's a hard sell, but I believe that most people would love it if you could get the big money out of politics.
Ben Franklin believed
Citizens United needs to go away too.
Yeah, I know. Citizens United is one of the worst decisions that the Supreme Court's ever made. It's a disaster. I agree with you. I'm not exactly sure how you overturn it other than a constitutional amendment at this point.
Yeah, I just think at some point, well, like you said, there's so much money at this point, you'd have to have the right people in Congress who are willing to take that on.
Right, and there are other issues too that people talk about. Oh, why can't we change this? Why can't we change that? And part of the answer is gun control, for instance. Require a constitutional amendment, and they're not going to get a constitutional amendment, or to remove the electoral college.
What do you mean it would require a constitutional amendment?
Well,
on what?
The right to bear arms is guaranteed by the Second Amendment of the Constitution.
Well, yeah, but I can't get in my car and drive 300 miles an hour down the road if I want to. There can still be guardrails.
Right.
If you look at and I'm going to bring up a Fox News poll on this issue.
Good.
Fox News, and you can look this one up.
Jennifer will tell you that I fact check everything.
93% favored universal background checks. 93%.
Yeah, I know
that's Dems, Republicans, NPAs, everybody. Why can't we get that done?
I know.
I'm not asking to ban guns. I'm saying can't we come to some sort of reasonable place on this?
Well,
she wants to be reasonable.
Yeah, really. Nobody wants to be reasonable.
I'm not going to knock on your door and take away your gun, but I think there should be regulations.
That's what you hear on the other side. As soon as you start talking about gun control, is they're going to try and take our guns away. That's what you hear.
Well,
right?
Nobody's going to do that because we have a Second Amendment, which I support.
I do too, by the way. In case anybody's listening out there and wonders, I'm a fan of
the Second Amendment. I think,
but
there need to be reasonable guardrails.
Background checks make sense to me as well. We're talking about divisiveness, and I typically do a little bit of history here and just talk a little. The election of 1800 is one of the most divisive presidential elections in our history, and it interests me because the candidates are John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, two signers of the Declaration of Independence, two guys that ought to get along, but they literally tear into each other, and the fight is so bad that Adams and Jefferson do not speak to each other for a quarter century after that election. George Washington says Jefferson's new party is going to destroy the country. Thomas Jefferson says of John Adams that he's trying to make himself a king. He's trying to become a dictator. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
And the two of them fight so bad, and ultimately Jefferson wins. And the two refuse to speak. Two guys that actually not only signed the Declaration of Independence, they wrote the Declaration of Independence together along with Benjamin Franklin. Jefferson was the main author, but they fight for 25 years, and it's Adams' wife eventually writes a letter to Thomas Jefferson and says, John misses you.
Always the women who are having to bring it together, right?
Yes.
Abigail Adams writes a letter to Thomas Jefferson, and that it gets them together. And literally right before they die, they have a reconciliation.
They're in a microcosm is why we need more women in Congress and in politics. Women are collaborators. Women are good at bringing people together, and women like that process. I don't think you're going to see nearly so much chest beating when you have a woman in charge.
Ooh, Jennifer likes that line.
I do.
I give a presentation. I've done it a few times. That's a history of the women's movement. We call it from
Molly Hatchet to burning bras.
Oh, very good.
And you know what? It's funny. It's well received. But one of the things they say in there, and I think it's true, the progress of women and the progress of civilization are inexorably intertwined.
Yeah.
I love it because he can speak to a crowd. It doesn't matter what political affiliation they are. They can all the women in that room can agree on women's empowerment and how we've come a long way.
Well, I think we're running out of time, but I think in the end there are more things that we agree on than we disagree on,
That's it.
Maybe we need to focus on the things that we agree on. And what do we agree on? We agree we want our children to be safe.
Right.
We agree we want a good economy. We want jobs.
Right.
We want health care.
Right.
We don't want people dying in the street because there's no health care.
So if we can take away the special interests and really act on people's best interests, on our constituents' best interests, truly do that, we do all want the same things. And all we have to do is work together and see each other a little bit. Is that so hard?
We're running out of time, and I think that is the perfect quote to end this interview on. Will you come back again?
I'd love to. This has been super fun.
Donna Deegan, the reasonable choice. I like
Well, that doesn't sound awfully sexy.
But I love your passion and your purpose, and
Thank
I'm
you.
really so happy to have met you.
Thank you.
Yes, it's been great. We got to stop. We're way over time again. But thanks for being here.
Thank you.